Hi everyone, this video is about the poem Mother Any Distance. It won't tell you everything you need to know about this poem, but it will give you a few ideas of some meanings, methods, and possible points of comparison. Remember, for these videos, you need pens, highlighters, and a copy of the poem, probably your anthology. If you don't have your anthology, that's your book of poems, you can find one linked in the comments below. So go and find those three things, pause the video, and come back when you're ready. Okay, welcome back. Let's get started. The first thing you need to do is turn to page 18 of your anthology, your book of poems. I'm going to tell you a simple summary of the poem. I want you to pause the video and write it at the top of your page. Okay, welcome back. Now you've written your summary of the poem. I'll just recap a few ideas. So in this poem, the speaker's mum has helped him move out of home. He's a grown-up adult and he's moving into his own place and she's helping him. He feels supported by her. She's still looking after him and he's excited about the future, yet there's some anxiety there and some feelings of kind of confusion about moving on from his mum. Now that you have the simple summary, I want you to pause the video and read the poem all the way through, thinking about where you see these ideas from the summary in action. Okay, welcome back. Now we're going to go through the poem stanza by stanza, starting with the title. As we go, I'm going to ask you some questions and I want you to say your answer aloud to the empty room that you're in. It will help you really understand what's going on and make sure you're really engaged with the poem. So the first thing we're going to look at is the title. Now this bit underneath the title from Book of Matches just means the group of poems it originally came from. But the thing we're focusing on is this, the title. It's 3 words, Mother Any Distance. I want you to think in your head and then say out loud, which of those words is direct address? Which of those words shows the poet is speaking directly to someone? If you said the word mother, then you're right. This is direct address and it conveys how the speaker has a desire to connect directly with his mother now that he's moving out of home. Pause the video and make that annotation, please. Okay, welcome back. Let's have a look at the first stanza. So as we said, in the first stanza, the speaker has moved out of home and has got his own place, but his mum is there and she's helping him. And in the first 2 lines, so line 1 and 2, there's a phrase that shows he still needs her help. Think in your head and then say out loud which phrase, which words shows the speaker still requires the mother's help. If you said requires a second pair of hands, that was a good answer. This phrase here shows he's still dependent on his mum's help and support. He needs her to not only help him move into the house, put up shelves, paint walls, move furniture, but probably needs her support emotionally as well. That idea of practical support is evident in the second half of the first stanza. Look at the last 2 lines here. The speaker lists the things that the mum helps him with. Think in your head and then say out loud to the screen, what are the kind of things that the mum helps him with? Yeah, you might have found measuring windows, pelmets and doors. Now this word pelmets you might not know, just means the area around the outside of the window. So this list conveys the many ways the mother is helping the speaker. And then finally, at the end of this stanza, the speaker talks about spaces in the house that the mum is helping him to prepare. And they're quite unusual spaces. They're not normal measurements of spaces. Look at the last line of the poem in this stanza. And just think in your head, or circle on your page, where are the 2 measurements, the 2 words that show measurements of spaces? Okay, you might have found this word acres. You might have found this word prairie. Circle both of those words, please. So those words are 2 measurements or 2 spaces. An acre is a very large area of land. And a prairie is a large, wild, open field. If you're not sure what that looks like, you might want to pause the video and have a look at a picture. Now, together in this man's house, there's not literally acres of space, and there's not literally a large, wild, open field. We can assume it's like a normal flat or house. However, together, it gives an impression of how he feels about being in this new space. If he's describing his house as a very large area of land and one that feels like a large, wild, open field, think in your head, what impression does that give of how he feels about being in this new home? And say your answer aloud to the screen. Yeah, you might have said something like, this metaphor suggests that the speaker feels a bit isolated and lost in his new environment. So pause the video and make those annotations for the first stanza if you haven't done so already. Okay, welcome back. Second stanza. In this stanza, we get the mum helping the son, the speaker, with a specific task. So here's the second stanza. And just have a look at the first two lines. And I want you to try and find the tool or the kind of bit of household apparatus that the mum is helping the son to use. So it's like an item you might need when you moved house. Say your answer aloud to the screen. Yeah, you might have found this spool of tape. And literally that's just a tape measure. And what these two lines mean, I'll just explain it and show you some images, is that the son is up on a ladder. And the first bit of line 5 says that the mum is at the 0 end. So just say aloud to the screen, do you think if he's at the top here on the ladder and she's at the 0 end, where do you think she is? Do you think she's on the middle of the ladder? Do you think she's on the bottom of the ladder? Do you think she's somewhere really far away? Say your answer aloud to the screen. Yeah, she's at the 0 end. She's at the start, so she's at the bottom on the floor. And she's got this spool of tape, this tape measure. Oh, sorry, he's me with the spool of tape. He's got the tape measure, but she's holding it at the other end. So it probably looks a little bit like this. So he's up on the ladder, she's holding the tape, and they're probably measuring maybe like the distance of a wall to put up some curtains or something. But either way, this image is quite an evocative one. It's quite powerful, and it makes us think of other times when the mum and the son might have been connected by some kind of physical tape. And probably the best example of that is the time when the son was still in the womb. You might have heard of something called an umbilical cord. An umbilical cord is the cord that goes from the baby's stomach while it's in the womb and connects it to the mother so that it's able to receive nutrients from its mother whilst it's still in the womb. Looks something like this. And that umbilical cord is a really powerful connection between mother and child. And this image of the son on the ladder and the mum at the bottom with a tape between them, this image has connotations of an umbilical cord, and it suggests that enduring, that lasting connection between mother and son. So literally, he's on the ladder, she's at the bottom, they've got a tape between them because they're putting something up in the house. But metaphorically, we've got this image of connection still between the mother and son. And he says he's shouting measurements back to base, and she's unreeling, feeding out and unreeling the tape between them. And then at the end of the poem, end of the stanza, sorry, there's two metaphors, two objects that are mentioned. Look at the end of this stanza and circle those two objects that are mentioned. Yep, you might have found them here, anchor and kite. Now in this relationship, the metaphor suggests that the mother is the anchor. She grounds the son, but she might also be holding him back. And in this metaphor, the son is the kite. And that suggests he wants to be free, but he's also at risk of getting lost. The kite, if it's not held back by something, will just blow off into the wind. So as he moves into his new house, The son is anchored by the mum. She's there helping him, perhaps giving him guidance and love. Maybe she's holding him back a bit. Maybe her presence is making him feel a little bit unsure about branching out by himself. And the fact that he's a kite shows he's got this possibility to fly away and start a new life, but that's quite dangerous and scary. There's lots of risk associated with that process. So pause the video and make any annotations, make those annotations for this stanza now. Okay, welcome back, final stanza. In this final stanza, it starts with a new image of the sun doing a specific movement. Look at the start of this final stanza and circle the movement that the sun is doing. Yep, that's right. You might have found him spacewalking. So literally that just means, or would look something like this picture here. So spacewalking is walking in orbit. There's no gravity, so you would need to be attached by a cord to your ship to stop you floating away. And the sun describes himself as spacewalking through the empty bedrooms because we've got this idea, this image of him exploring new environments. However, at the end of the tape, we've still got the mum. And in the middle of the stanza, there's an interesting action that the mum is doing, describing the way she's holding on to this tape. Just circle or highlight the word that shows how she's holding on. Yeah, it says she still pinches that last 1/100th of an inch. So that means she's holding really tightly, pinching really tightly onto the last little measurement of the rope. And that verb suggests the mother doesn't really want to let go of him. I should have said this before, but I'll just go back to it now. The image of the spacewalking, I kind of alluded to it, but I'll go again, conveys the speaker's desire to explore new environments. So he wants to go and explore his new house, and that probably represents explore this new chapter of his independent life. But as we said, it has connotations of danger, because if he cuts the cord, metaphorically, then he's at risk of getting lost, just as you would be in space if your cord broke from your ship. So then going back to the end of this first stanza, we get this sense of a dilemma because he is spacewalking towards a hatch. So literally within the bedroom, he's probably just looking out of a window and he's looking out over the sky. But this represents this idea that he's at a changing point in his life and he's got this open world of adulthood in front of him. And these last two lines rhyme. Can you find the two words in the last two lines, so lines 14 and 15, that rhyme and circle them? Yeah, you might have found sky and fly that rhyme. We call this a couplet, and it shows his dilemma that he's having. He knows that his new life has both adventure, opportunity to fly, experience new things, be independent, take risks, travel to new places, explore new environments. However, there's a danger that he could fall in that process. There's a danger that he could struggle, he could encounter risk, he could encounter upset. So there's that sense of danger and dilemma, as well as that sense of adventure. So for the last stanza, just pause the video and make those notes, please. Okay, last but not least, you're probably thinking, which poems could you compare with Mother Any Distance? So in Mother Any Distance, we've got these mixed feelings, a sense of appreciation for a loved one, but also a sense that they're perhaps holding you back in some way, or that your life is at a turning point. So just say aloud to the screen which poem you'd compare this to and why. Yeah, the poem I've chosen is Walking Away, because both speakers reflect on the inevitable separation of parent and child as they grow older. If you remember, Walking Away is the poem where the little boy walks away from his dad, and his dad understands that that's a painful but quite natural process. So it's a bit like this speaker who's growing up. He's moved into his own house and he understands that that's an exciting experience, but it does have some risks, some dangers with it. Okay, hope this video was helpful. Send me an email if you have any questions, and I look forward to seeing your annotations.